Hi, welcome back to the channel. In this lesson, we'll be building a simple calculator using Python. This will be the first of the series of our Python project. I believe it will help some of our audience that are interested in learning Python or programming generally. That's it. Let's get started. Now, to build our simple calculator, the first thing we should be thinking of is definitely we'll have inputs on the calculator. We're inputting numbers. Let's call the first number, we'll call it number one. And the second number, you input another number, number two. Then between these two inputs, obviously there should be an operator like a plus. Now we'll look at four operators. We'll look at plus, minus, we'll look at multiplication, and lastly, we'll also look at division. So our calculator should be able to perform these functions. Let's get into our IDE. There are different types of IDEs. I'll be using Visual Studio Code. For other IDEs, you have PyCharm, you have the Jupyter Lab, and you have Jupyter Notebooks and lots that you can take advantage of. But for this, I'm used to using Visual Studio Code. Now, let's declare our first variable. That's our first input, number one, num1. So we'll be inputting num1. This is a way to create an input. Let's tag that as first number. Then there will be a number two, and let's tag that as input again, an input. Then I'll create this as second number. Second number. I want my system to ask me for these numbers. Now there will be an operator. In fact, the operator to come before the second input. So I'll put the operator here. Now let's have the operator here because I want the system to ask me of the operator before the second input. Now that's my operator. Now we'll ask for the operator. Let's create our conditions because our calculator is going to run on conditions. So we're going to use conditionals. We're going to use if statements. Now, will this help you learn how to use if statements? Now, if my operator is the same thing as plus, let's start with the plus sign. I want, because this is what the user will enter. The user will not enter it as plus, the user will enter it as a string. So to print out, this is what I want my calculator to do. I want my calculator to print out num1 plus num2. Else if, that is, let's use the else if my operator is the same thing as probably minus. Let's take minus, minus. Then I want it to print out num1 minus num2. Else again, if my operator is the same thing as multiplication, I want it to print out num1 times num2. And lastly, else if my operator is the same thing as a division. Now, don't forget, the user is actually entering in strings. I want my calculator to print out num1 divided by num2. Lastly, I want to create an else statement to justify a situation else. That is, if my calculator, if my operator does not input any of these four, if there's a mistake. Else, let's have an error. Let's have a warning that says wrong operator. Wrong operator. That's like a warning. That's a warning. Now, with this, there will still be an error. Why? Because what I'm entering are all strings. We need to convert our num1 and num2. We want to convert it to either a float or an integer, but I prefer to convert it to float so that it will be much more flexible. So that num1, let's convert it to float, will be equals to float num1, and num2 will also be equals to float num2. Now with this, my code should run. Let's try it. If it doesn't run, then we'll correct whatever mistakes we have in it. Now let's run our code. It's asked me for the first number. Let's use 50. Now here I'll input my first number here if it's 50. It's asking me for an operator. Let's use addition. Then it's asking me for the second number. Then I'm doing 50 plus 45. And instantly I have my results to be 95. Let's try subtraction. Now let's use 56. Then my operator this time around will be minus, and let me input. I've inputted 56, 45. 56 minus 45 obviously is 11. Lastly, let's try it when we have multiplication. Now let's run the code again. If I have 4, I'm doing multiplication by 3. That should give me 12. That will give me 12. Now with this, you have seen how to build a simple calculator using Python programming language. Thank you for staying with us, and see you in our next programming class.